Business Spotlight from Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon. Sponsored by Staffordshire Chambers of Commerce. Join over 1,000 delegates at Uttoxeter Racecourse on the 9th of October for the Let's Do Business Expo by booking your free ticket today.
I'm Sonya Farrall. This is Business Spotlight in partnership with Cross Rhythms City Radio and Baba Baboon. Joining me in the studio this week, we've got the lovely Joef Bailey, who's from the Quarter at Potbank. Hello, Josef.
Hello, hi.
How are you?
All good, thank you. Yourself?
I'm good, thank you.
Great.
Now, the Quarter, and I'm not going to lie, I've been familiar with the Quarter many a time myself, and everything that you do, you know, I know you were originally based down here at Piccadilly, just down the road from the radio station, and then you relocated a few years ago. Do you just want to explain, though, a little bit about what the Quarter actually is and does? Yeah,
absolutely. So we're coming up to 10 years now, which is an incredible amount of time, especially in the challenging industry of hospitality. We looked for a venue, and we were originally going to be a sleepy little 10 till 4 cafe. Mm-hmm. That was kind of the premise of what we were looking for as we were moving out of our old business into something new. And then very, very quickly, it transpired that the city town wanted a little bit more. And we suddenly became then a nighttime venue, a live music venue, an events venue, especially for afternoon tea, baby showers, birthdays. And we just suddenly started to catalyse a real different vibe and feel here on Piccadilly. We really kind of encouraged other businesses to open up, which was fantastic for the economy itself. And with that, then we just grew, developed, refined the things we were learning because it was our first time in this industry. So it was all very new to us. We went from employing kind of 7 staff to in excess of 40 within 18 months period. And then suddenly we were just this well-established, almost part of the furniture of Piccadilly, and we had a wonderful time here. Then opportunities arise as it does in business, and we expanded down into the Spode site, working alongside one of the asset companies down there who had taken over some of the buildings. We quickly then developed this space, still keeping the absolute brand, the theme, the styling, everything that was innate to us about our original kind of Quarter theme. And then suddenly we'd got these extra spaces, extra people, extra opportunity, extra growth. Weddings then became on a big part of the business, much larger scale events. We then expanded further on the footprint, so we were looking at then the nighttime economy and opened up the factory floor, which is then a live music venue which is sold out on a weekly basis or used for private events, corporate events. A lot of local companies, big companies, Bet365 for example, they do private hires with us and really use the space because it's really transferable, the spaces, from one thing to another. You can dine with us, you can entertain with us, you can have music with us. It can be intimate, it can be large scale. There's a massive flexibility, and so that journey really kind of went from a very small little nugget of hospitality to suddenly now a full-on event space, a full-on wedding venue, with the restauranting at the heart of it, which is what we originally were, and the cafe, but now we're just using a heritage site, a beautiful kind of surroundings, trying to breathe different life, new life, and utilize what was old and disused into something that is now, you know, the Quarter new, and something that people can just access for many, many reasons, and to bring life to the town centre down in Stoke.
Yeah, and you know, Josef, just listening to all of that, it sounds like, you know, what a journey. Like you say, you know, you started off thinking, oh, we're just going to be like a little cafe, and I've seen how it's grown and all the different things that you've brought to it and everything at the Quarter. But how in hospitality, because we have had other guests on here from hospitality, and I imagine it's not an easy, like any business is not easy, but how have you sort of coped with any sort of challenges or adapting, and what is the key to running a successful hospitality business?
I mean, it all goes hand in hand. So I think success and the ability to pivot very quickly is in hospitality is really key. It's notoriously an industry where the margins are very tight. It's a very much hand-to-mouth business. People aren't paying big contracts up front to forge your cash flow. And I think with hospitality, you have to really look at what is the challenge that is going to be brought to you by something you can't control. And I think once you have that mindset of things you can't control, for example, a global pandemic, we were not in control of that situation. We have to then just use our creative minds, and we have to use our business acumen to realign our business model very quickly. And whether that is the product we do, the services we offer, the way in which we operate and trade. And it's about keeping fundamentally that you are a business, so the use of your management accounts, the use of third-party experts to help you refine and reshape. For us personally, myself and Anne-Marie as the co-owners, we don't have a board of directors, we don't have investors, it's just us two. And it's a huge amount of work, but the one thing we both have is masses of creativity, and we have masses of flexibility from a thought point of view. Yes, we have a kind of brand that we've really worked hard at, but we also know that has to evolve. So for a challenge of the pandemic, we quickly designed a website, got an ordering system on board, and we did that within a week of closure. We then set up our team, were changed to drivers, so to keep them as part furlough and part work, so they could earn more and keep their income and keep their lifestyle. We had 11 chefs in the kitchen. We had a team front of house taking orders off all the order platforms, our own pre-ordering system. We were sending hundreds of afternoon teas out every weekend, and then we had a fleet of cars of our own staff and drivers that were going around the city delivering all of our food as well. So we used that. We then got licenses quickly to be able to provide alcohol off-site, because you have to change. That's a different licensing system. So we thought, well, that's an opportunity. People still want to do this. We were very kind of vigilant of what was happening on social media, using those platforms and how that was evolving extremely quickly through COVID. So that's just one example. And the key is also, some things work, some things failed. A failing doesn't mean you have failed. It just means that wasn't right for that market, or you can quickly refine it. And it's corporations are like what I class as a cruise liner. To turn a corner with a cruise liner, it takes very, very, very slow journey for that cruise ship to then change direction and move because of the multi-layers within its corporation. For an independent like us, we wake up one day on a Monday and go, let's do this. And by Monday afternoon, we can do it because we don't have that structure to go through. So I think it's being able to take the risk, being able to take the rough with the smooth. Resilience in independent business and in hospitality is crucial, because it is a challenging industry, not because just of the business side, but working with the public. And the it's subjective. What one person thinks is brilliant, another person it might not be for them. So you've got to widen your market. We've also, whenever we have a challenge, so again, with government changes, with the political side of business, business rates, national insurance contributions, the fact of the war in Ukraine putting the price of oil up, and these things, when you're purchasing at such a high amount, that increase in product prices, suddenly how much can you pass on to the customer? Knowing and understanding our local economy and demographic of earnings and kind of how people spend their money in the locality. So it's relentless, really. And it is that relentlessness that you have to really sign up to when you're in the industry in order to really make it work and to provide not just a business for yourself, but a business for your community. And also, a safe haven for your employees, because again, the transient nature of the industry, for us, our retention is so high. We have staff still for 10 years who've been with us for 10 years. Now that's, fundamentally, you don't really hear that in hospitality. It's quite an unknown. So, we try and make sure our foundation, our heart, our core is strong, but with the ability to flex our brains and our minds and our creative slant to change and diversify, self-correct, self-reflect all the time, what worked, what didn't work. Obviously, Anne-Marie, we're married, so our kind of board meetings take place at any time, waking up in the morning to the last thing you go to bed at night. And probably we're fortunate, and I think that's why perhaps we have personally had the success we've had, because it is just us two. And that comes with its challenges of the hard work. And that's not necessarily just a bad thing, and to get anything out of life you've got to work hard, whether in any field.
Definitely.
But I think for us, we are just able to have that collaboration of each other and conversation at whenever it suits us, around family life, or around the dinner table. It kind of forms. Some might say that's a negative because then you don't get away from it, but you can't have everything. I think it's really about being creative, really building up a resilience, and for me, reflection is so key. I think just reflecting on what went well, what didn't go well, what could we improve on, what do we not need to change? If it's not broken, certainly don't fix it. I think sometimes we're too fast to reinvent the wheel. Actually, if it works and it keeps working, then just keep that. The key is consistency. So it's having that approach to things.
I get that 100%. I can tell how passionate you are as well when you talk about it. And after 10 years, that's a key as well. I think for me, as long as you're still enjoying it, and like yourself and Anne-Marie as well, I think that's really good that you can have that conversation, those relationships in business as well. But the other thing I was going to ask you, obviously you've mentioned the pandemic and how you adapted during that as well, and how quickly you had to adapt. What have you seen now over the last few years? Is the customer, spending less? Have you seen that with all the challenges again, like you've already mentioned, whether it's bills going up, energy bills, this, that and the other? Have you seen that change with how the customers are spending within the quarter?
I think the change is twofold, actually. So I think the biggest change is attitude and expectation. So I think within COVID, everybody had a voice. There was a platform for everybody, regardless of whether it's positive, negative, neutral. Everybody found this voice, this inner voice. And I think one of the things that potentially became a challenge coming out of it was that voice was then not filtered when we were coming back into the opened up world. So some of the things that people and opinions and views that everybody has absolutely the right to have any opinion. We get that, but I think that filtering system and that expectation just heightened the pressure that the industry was under. Everything had to be perfect, spot on. We've not had this. It's been taken away from us when we want it. It needs to be perfect. And of course we set out every day for it to be perfect. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a successful business. Standards are key. However, the appreciation of things, I think, the attitudinal change around events and attending a dinner reservation or a coffee lunch break, whatever it is, that's certainly shifted. And I think that's because as humans and our community, we just changed. I think the pandemic just changed us innately as people and how we respond to things. I think then when you couple that with the economical side of it, I think there was a green, very, very lush pasture coming out of it. People had got this money. It was all either saved up or they just didn't care because they'd been locked up. And so it went through a real peak after. But then obviously as reality sets back in, things go back to normal. We then have the challenges of the world had to pay for this global pandemic. It's okay. Everyone was living on borrowed money to some extent, and certain parts of society were okay. Maybe the older generations with money saved, no mortgage, so on and so forth. But suddenly, as things became tighter, we then had to pivot again, going, right, what's our product offer? Because we can see that people are coming, but they are coming with a real high expectation. But at the same time, we've got to balance that. What can they afford? Because to have high standards, you have to pay for that. We've got to pay for the staff. We've got to pay for the training, the facilities, the equipment, all of those things. And again, you're looking at your management accounts, going, all right, well, these purchase costs that were sitting at say 38%, we're now running at 39.5%. We're hitting 40. Suddenly, that margin's getting tighter and tighter. Where can we pass that on to in order to maintain the standards, maintain the offer? So we wouldn't. What we did find is people still really wanted to spend for special occasions. So I think the more casual, frivolous spend became tighter, but actually we were making no less money turnover wise. It was just what people were coming for. They seemed to be investing more in that special occasion, that celebration, that, and I think as well social media played that part, because it allowed people to see what someone else was doing over the other side of the world on their, say, baby shower, for example. Like, I want that vibe, I want that feel, I want to bring those things in. And then suddenly these occasions that were just a general gathering of friends, family, became epic, full novelistic kind of events, purely for their personal kind of reasons, so that they could showcase it, they could remember it, create their own memories. The phrases that were coming out was so many hashtags, so to speak, back then. So what we found is that the money was still being spent, but it was potentially being spent in a different way. And I do think fundamentally, if you've got a product that people want, people will find the money to spend. I think it's when you're a bit bland, a bit grey, people can take it or leave it. I think when you potentially have that as your product offer, that's when you kind of see a kind of shift in a negative kind of downward fashion.
Yeah, and you've mentioned a few things already with the quarter and what happens now down at Potbank. And like we've talked about at the beginning of the interview, you started off with a little vision to start with of a cafe, and now you've got not only a really successful, restaurant in the heart of Stoke town down there at Spode, but also a venue, and not just a venue for entertainment, but also, like you mentioned, weddings as well. So what is the future, Josef? Is there any other plans, or are you just going to just let things, I suppose, develop?
I would always, let's just say this is probably the contentious issue between myself and Anne-Marie. I think one of the things we do well is we really try and stabilize what we've got. So we always keep coming back to that, because you can't do any growth unless your foundations are solid. That applies to all business, in anything, most things in life. But we do feel our foundation is really strong for us to grow. So we are going to be growing, but potentially within the four walls of what we have. However, we are extending the factory floor, so that work will take place in the next few weeks. And that really is to allow us a slight more flexible space, so that the catering option in there doesn't eat into the kind of footprint where people are enjoying dancing, sing, all of the entertainment side of it. And that will just give us then the flexibility to have more covers. And it won't be all the time, but it'll just be on those occasions where we can maybe hit a different market, or at the peak times where we can really capitalize, because obviously this industry, you make the majority of your cash flow and profits at a certain quarter of the year, and that doesn't put you on a yacht, certainly, but it does allow you to pay for the other 9 months where you can have challenging weeks, or snow can hit and you've suddenly lost revenue that you couldn't plan for. So we're extending there, and we are taking on another internal space, which we are going to be developing into a real Instagrammable experiential dining experience. It'll still be with the quarter. It is still the quarter, but it'll just have a slightly different element to it, again, to hit the market of what is out there, what people want, but also to give a real nice backdrop to these special occasions and events, because that's one of the things that, again, we have become known for now, because not many places do take on big groups, especially in the restaurant. So we have a bit of a USP there, that we are happy to take larger groups for dining experiences, so on and so forth, because we have the space. So we've got two kind of small developments which will just really feed into the current business, but give us that little flexible space to be able to move into should we need to. And we keep our finger heavily on the pulse of the world, and we just keep looking. And if we're in business, and I think any business person, if they don't look for opportunities, while still kind of babysitting the foundation, the stagnation does grow, and that might not be from a business or a finance point of view, just personally. And I think if you're naturally a passionate, creative person, it's very hard to say no sometimes. As we're getting, age is now a factor in this as well, and children are growing up, and our priorities are shifting personally, and we have to couple that with the priorities of the business. But there's certainly, as the site itself is developing, we have to see what journey that takes, and we have to see the part we can play in that, while still looking after protecting the four walls and redeveloping things internally that are moving with the times, moving with the product offer, and moving with, just keeping it fresh for us, because in order for us to stay passionate, it does have to be fresh for you as an owner. You do have to go into work with the risk brain going, oh, is this going to work? Shall we? Should we? Shouldn't we? You have to have that little risk in order to kind of thrive a little bit, and in order to keep things interesting for your own kind of personal benefit.
100%. And Joseph, just before you go, I'm going to ask you one more question, because you've already mentioned, again, the quarter first opened here in Piccadilly and Hanley. You're now in the heart of Stoke town. And as this, business spotlight is here to champion our local businesses, but as a local business owner yourself in Stoke-on-Trent, what do you feel about that? And what do you feel, as the local area, and why we should sort of champion and shout about all these great things that are going on with people?
Ultimately, any success comes around community and community involvement. And, you only have to go back to the Middle Ages to look at how businesses worked. And it's internal economy. It's having people spending their money and their time within their locality. Now, Stoke is a challenging city because of it being broken into multiple towns, each of which have their own priorities, their own kind of government setup, council setup. They have their own heart. So Stoke is often really made up of 5 or 6 hearts. So the reason why I think we have to champion the area that you work as a business owner is because fundamentally, without those surrounding community and people, you don't have a business. Certainly in hospitality, it's footfall. You have to have people walking through your doors. Well, yes, we have tourism. We have, we're a city that actually is really unsung for its tourist venues. When you look at Trentham Gardens, when you look at Alton Towers, the pottery industry itself, we have some of their biggest visitor attractions in the UK. I think some of our ability to communicate that and to really champion and showcase is where sometimes business owners can come unstuck. They're excellent at what they do, but you've got to have the mouthpiece in order to really talk it through and get people to understand the part they're playing. So business for us, we're on the high street technically, but it's a two-way thing. The high street needs to work for us as we need to work for the high street. And from a business point of view and a local business point of view, it's really crucial that people and humans are there. Ultimately, without their heartbeats and their wallets, the business can't survive. So it's how we make them safe, how we make them feel they can get what they want, the value that they put on the product you've got is really key. And it's also just really about knowing them and understanding why are they coming to you, why are they choosing me, why are they choosing my product, what is it about me, my product, that they want? Because we all have choices. We all have choices. Some are limited by our financial kind of setup, absolutely. However, for us, we do the power of 10 all the time. We need to offer 10 things so that people can come to us 10 times throughout an annual period. And if we can do that, surely everybody in the community can access us, whether that's through funded events that require you to not purchase anything, you just come and experience it. But then you might see we do all these other things and you come back to us. You come for afternoon tea, you can come for a wedding, but then suddenly you realise we do this. And I think that's how you build a community around your business. And it's really understanding that neither one can work without the other. And I think it's having businesses really focusing on, regardless of their product, regardless of the reasons why they did it, really appreciating and understanding that without your community, you don't have a business. And there's certainly one in our industry really functions on that premise that we need people and the people need us. So we've got to make it a happy marriage somewhere. And if we work hard at that, then hopefully it will have longevity and it will be able to be celebrated by us and by them.
Josef, thank you so much. I'm really excited to hear and see what comes next for the quarter. So no doubt, as you've enjoyed this, Josef, you might come back in the future.
Absolutely. It's been fantastic. Thank you for having us on. It's a real privilege to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. That's Joef Bailey from the Quarter at Potbank here on Business Spotlight with me, Sonya Farrall.
Business Spotlight from Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon, sponsored by Staffordshire Chambers of Commerce. Join over 1,000 delegates at Uttoxeter Racecourse on the 9th of October for the Let's Do Business Expo by booking your free ticket today.